Hey everybody, welcome to today's lesson. Mr. O'Donnell just wanted to first off apologize for not being there today, but I definitely needed to have you guys on the same page as Blue Day classes, so I needed to narrate this lesson for you today. You should have had your homework turned in. You should have also have seen the two different videos about the worst jobs in Britain's history. I thought that guy was a fun host to look at some of these really dirty and awful jobs about people in the past, and of course those during some of those during the Industrial Revolution were some of the worst, particularly for children, that you would have seen there. The next step, what I want to do is talk about political cartoons. If you can remember, during the French Revolution, we addressed several of them and kind of how political cartoons begin there. And you can see here, there's quite a few. This is our friend Napoleon over there in this cartoon. We can see, Napoleon and the British carving up the world. And the main part about the lessons that we're going to go over is looking at different characteristics that cartoonists used ultimately to get what their point across was. The point across this one is the cartoonist is taking a stand, mocking the fact that Napoleon has been given all of Europe while the British is taking everything else, the rest of the world, particularly the Pacific Ocean. But anyway, before we get too far, I wanted to talk about some of the tools that cartoonists back then and today use, and how we as a class can kind of identify some of those strategies. So at the bottom here is the main goal of the cartoonist. The cartoonist is trying to persuade, to create an argument. They're blunt and opinionated. A cartoon offers visual and written features that together to try to make a case, try to present and support its view and such. And so you can read that there. But I think we get the idea of what cartoons are trying to do to be able to give the cartoonist point across. But here's some of these tools. One is called visual symbols. Another one is visual distortion, irony, and the last one stereotypes and caricatures. A symbol is anything, a visual that's going to stand for something else. It can something that stands for an idea. So you can have, like today in our political parties, you can have the donkey and the elephant represent their symbols of the political parties, of the Republicans and the Democrats. And so you see quite a few of these used in cartoons. The second one is distortion. Visual distortion is the exaggeration or the change in the size or the emotion of something. So let's say, like in here, it talks about how a dragon is a symbol for China. Well, that would fit as a symbol, but the size of the dragon would make an emphasis of visual distortion, that the emphasis of one thing being too large or too small, to really sort of compare two things, or the word is called juxtapose, two different sort of elements together in a cartoon. The third one is irony. Now, irony is interesting because it's something we get as viewers, and even kids in high school can get irony, but it's hard to really kind of describe why it's ironic, because it really is a form of humor, and that's really what the political cartoonist, kind of the real challenge for them, because it's hard. How can I make an image or two appear to be amusing using irony, and will a way in which that you kind of undercut its own meaning and such. Not all of these cartoons that you guys will see, every cartoon does not have all of these ones, but I want us to be able to see if we can identify their use in some of them. And the last one here is stereotypes and or a caricature. A stereotype is a vastly oversimplified view of a group, often insulting. Very much what you'll see these in the past, not so much today anymore. They show broad cultural attitudes about how people felt about other groups of people in the past. Caricatures are kind of the opposite, though. That's what happens when you go to Disneyland or something and you ask for the artist, one of those cartoonists, to be able to make a caricature of you. So like we may be familiar with, unfortunately, what a stereotype of an African American would look like in our nation's past. A caricature is, let's say, President Obama with large ears. That is not a stereotype of all black people, but that is a caricature of that particular person. So keeping these in mind, I'm going to show you some examples here. Here's example number one. If the substitute can pause this for a second right now and ask the students which one of these they think it is. And pause. What I hope that you would get here is the idea that this is an example of irony we should understand that there is a joke here, and it's a little bit funny. Columbus is cheating off of the Viking. In his early years as a kid, he would copy off somebody else's work, and the irony of it is that maybe I could just copy what he did and still get credit for it, because it's mocking the idea that we give Columbus credit for the discovery of the New World. So, great example of irony. Now, you could say that there's others. I was just trying to demonstrate that this one is really showing you irony. You could say, is this distortion? Not so much. Is it symbols? Well, you could say maybe the representations of, maybe the Viking helmets and such, or even maybe a caricature of them. But the main part of this is irony. So here's another one. Maybe it's a little bit hard to see. This says the fool in his folly. This is a person carrying a gun, and it goes this direction to war and barbarism, and this direction civilization, peace, and progress. And the bottom it says how Germany has announced its determination to increase its spending of weapons. So let's have the substitute, if you could pause this. This is an example, of course, of a visual distortion, that the overemphasis, the cartoonist really has a large overemphasizing the size of this gun to demonstrate that this person from Germany, the Kaiser of Germany, is a fool because he has spent so much on the weapons. Now, this is also a use of symbols. The gun is a really easy symbol of what the buildup of weapons means, but the distortion on this one is a great example. All right, let's try another one. What is this one here? And substitute, please pause. You should see in this one, very much easy to tell, I would think. This is an example of a stereotype, not a caricature. This really is a stereotype. This is one was done during World War II. This is an American. It's not even a cartoon. This is an advertisement from the Texaco gasoline oil company, in which that it's trying to be able to stereotype all the Japanese who we were at war with, and try to be able to guilt the Americans into working harder, rationing more. So go ahead, please take a day off. Trying to make the everyday American feel guilty for not doing as much as the soldiers are, and try to be able to save as much for the war effort. So, but very stereotypical, broad strokes of describing what the Japanese all look like and what their intentions were. Here's another one. Try this one. Pause, please. This is an example of visual distortion. Great example of the size of a baby, really demonstrating the population of Africa increasing, but not just population altogether, but the idea that Africa is going to have a huge change in their demographic pyramid, that there's going to be a lot more younger people in Africa. And what about this one? If you could, it's hard to read here. It says Scotland on her and independence over here. And let's pause. The example on this one is a phenomenal use of irony. You do see, is this a caricature or a stereotype of Scottish people? No. The symbols and such, but this is a great example of irony. If you can remember, we even had the conversation about when we talked about what is Great Britain, and about how Scotland, whom Merida is representing, and the irony is that she is known for being a perfect shot and is being very Scottish, but a perfect shot, so of course she would never miss the bullseye. And we now have learned that Scotland, although that we thought that they definitely wanted independence, that they ultimately didn't get it. And the cartoonist here uses two different images to demonstrate a before and after. But another interesting thing to understand about irony is we really have to have some background knowledge. If we would not have had that conversation about Scottish independence, this would have kind of fallen flat. And one last one. How about this one here? And please pause. The example here is twofold. There's two of them really good ones. One of them is symbols, the octopus, and also distortion because of the size of the octopus. The octopus is very large. Of course, they're never the size of this compared to the Earth. But we haven't seen any symbols yet. So this is an example of how an octopus can represent something that's not an octopus. And here in 1938, the American fear that we had of communism spreading and taking over all places of the world. You can see even wrapping around here in the United States and Spain and places, and even touching down here in Latin America. So symbols and distortion. So we can see that. Let's just skip that one here for the sake of time. Okay, so the lesson that I want us working on for homework, and we're going to begin for how much time is left for the period today, is talking about this place, Germany. Up to this point, there is not a Germany at all. although we have people of a German past, a German folklore, German language, we don't have a country of Germany. And so it's not here until the late 1800s, up till 1870, 1860s and 70s, we really get the Germany that we know of. And so we have different regions, northern and southern. The largest of all these different regions is Prussia, but there's others like Bavaria, you can see in Hanover and such. But this Prussian region of Germany is the one who's going to lead this. And so after I'm finished talking, there is another video. So the two ways I would like you to find some information about German unification, depending on how much time is left, there will be the substitute can play a video about German unification from another teacher who did a presentation on this, or and I'll post that online if you guys didn't get to that, or feel free to do some reading online. Maybe I'll see if I have time, I can put together a short link on Schoology. But what I want you to do is thinking about those ideas. Let me go back to here. The ideas about symbols, distortion, irony, and stereotypes. I want you to be able to see if you can try to create one cartoon for all of your group about a newly unified Germany. Some of the things I want you to keep in mind you may want to use is the German flag. Although Germany's flag today looks different, this would be the flag that you could use. And the two people that you can reference in this one about German unification is, first off, Kaiser Wilhelm. Kaiser Wilhelm will be the emperor, the leader of this new Germany, and he is from Prussia. But the man who's really behind it and made all of this happen, the architect of it all, is a guy we really should know, and we're going to learn about more of his impact later. His name is Otto von Bismarck. So Otto von Bismarck, Kaiser Wilhelm, and the German flag are all things to be able to help you. And lastly, here's an example of a cartoon. This is a real cartoon from the 1800s. Kaiser Wilhelm, Otto von Bismarck back here. Kaiser Wilhelm is wearing a crown. He has the new title Kaiser, which means emperor, and he's given up his old crown, König, which means king. And the title basically means it says, "How is this for high?" Basically, we have switched from being the king of Prussia to the emperor of all of Germany. So don't use this crown idea about ditching one for another, but there's lots of different tools and techniques and ideas. I'm looking forward to seeing those. We're going to start class off next time after the quiz. We're going to put a bunch of these under the doc cam, all of yours, and we're going to kind of have you guys kind of show us your cartoons. I wish I could be able to be there to help you with a little bit. Like I said, if there's time today, you can work on them in groups. If not, you and your groups need to get together how you can meet online and be able to go over how you guys are going to be able to put all this together. In the end, I'm looking for just this on a piece of paper that we can put underneath the document camera. So thanks, everybody. And if you have any questions, feel free to put a message in the group on Schoology or shoot me an email. Thanks, everybody.